Okay, hello everyone, this is Mr. Rob Ronan here again, and in this little guide we're going to talk about the new ways that Vanguard can go for offense, specifically when he's pressuring the opponent on block. Because before, it was kind of his thing, like he does the long block strings, but they really weren't that scary. Like you just have to be patient and not get hit by his kind of obvious daggers, and then you'll be fine and he'll be very sad. But now, he actually has a little bit of juice when he's on offense. He has some options that he can go for that can actually make the opponent think about what they want to do instead of just standing there blocking and waiting for him to push himself full screen and not be able to do anything. So let's go over what those options are, because some of them weren't entirely obvious from the patch notes. So which one first? I think we'll go from the most simple one first. The first one is that after Brandish, the 5 MS follow-up is actually plus on block now. Let me show you like a pro. I can show us jumping. Maybe I can. I think it's this one. No, it is not that one. Hold on. I'm a pro, I promise. Nope, not that one either. There we go. Okay, so I go for this. That all jails, and as you can see, I'm very slightly plus. I don't think the dust loop has come out saying how plus it is, but looks like it's like very slightly plus, like +1, +2, maybe +3 at max. But being able to like a full string off of your brandish into this is a really cool way of enforcing pressure, especially if you're really close to the opponent. So now it's pretty obvious what this means it'll lead to. Oops. If the opponent's blocking your things, you can always just do a full attack string with 0 gaps into your plus frames. And here, obviously, if the opponent tries to jump, it's very easy to hit them out of their jumps because you're plus now. But also, if they're trying to mash on you, you have the option. You have basically these few options. You can either mash your fastest button, which is this, which unfortunately is not very fast. Or you can jump for an S. I like going for that, just a micro jump into an S. It beats people trying to go for a grab. And then, speaking of, you can also go for a grab if they're trying to respect your options of, and not just jumping all over the place. If they're respecting you being able to, like, mash before them, obviously, you can go for a throw. Or, if you feel real nasty and you know the opponent has really fast buttons and they're gonna mash you out, you can just DP. And now his DP actually works when he's up close. So, with all these options, the opponent should be pretty scared to actually contest you on these plus frames. So my favorite one, yeah, as you can see, is going for the jump S, because you can just re-loop all of your offense and go for some wild damage. And you can drop your combos too, if you like. But probably the most, let's see, I'm not sure how fast Berserker's reversal, and I also don't really feel like recording it right now. But yeah, the best option is probably just to go for your crouching kick and just continuing your offense this way. As you can see, even that, in my awakening state, did a ton of the opponent's life gauge, and there wasn't any gaps there. I wasn't doing any delays or anything, I just got my plus frames and continued my offense. So that is really useful, and it leads to some mind games where you can, use your light buttons to get some, like, more real jails, or you can, like, go for your heavy jump-ins to reset into your heavy offense that will completely melt the opponent. Really cool. The next one is now, when he's going for these like delays and he's trying to like fish for things, he's a lot better at it. Because now he can go for his 4 MS off of basically any situation. So it used to be only a threat after he's done like, this, and now it's a threat. And the opponent just isn't going to mash there because they know he has like 7 different follow-ups that will probably all kill them. One of them even has armor, so they just don't mash there. But now, because he has access to that special move anywhere on the screen, he's a lot more threatening. And my controller just disconnected. Hold up. Okay, here we go. Yeah, so if they're trying to mash, at any point you can go in for armor, and that lets you go for these like ridiculously long delayed things whenever you want, because the opponent just cannot be sure that they can mash in between any of these. Even with a DP, because it's armored, it can armor through most DPs, especially if they're not active for a crazy long amount of time, like Berserkers. Let's get him to do it. So I'm doing stuff. If I'm doing some delays and I'm like, do, and like I think I'm going to do a delayed back one, or he thinks I'm going to be delayed enough that he can DP, well then he dies. Especially if I know how to do combos, which this thoroughly I do not. And yeah, this is just a super good way of actually applying some kind of mix-up to your staggers. So not only do you have the ability to stagger them to reset your offense, because a lot of the time I would do like into the neutral one and then reset the neutral one and continue the offense so you get a lot more of your attacks and break a lot more of their guard in a single string. But now if you really think that they know that you're going to do this, you can just go straight into your armor wherever you feel like putting a delay. So instead of doing a super long delay, you just go for armor and then just melt whatever option they try to go for, which is, once again, super, super strong. And using the same, like, I guess you could call it a card cancel, but it's just kind of double canceling it into the follow-ups. You can do the same thing into this if you feel like just going straight in for the plus frames, catching them off guard. But because this is like airtight with this, I don't see why you wouldn't just get the extra chip damage from the actual special move. Okay, and the next change is specifically off of his special strings, or his heavy strings. Now he can actually jump cancel the 2S, which is really cool and leads to kind of gimmicky mix, not really mix, but just like extended pressure, where he can just jump cancel, jump in on the opponent, get some jump ins, and he stays plus, gets to go for just more stuff, and keep them on their toes a little bit more. And yes, this is kind of gimmicky because they can anti-air you, it's not too fast, but there are some other things you can go for. So obviously the main one is you can just jump in with your jump attack and then just do some buttons after your jump attack. But you can also go in for a jump S depending on how close you are to your opponent or how long you jump for. This usually works pretty well. You have that option too, because it kind of changes your jump arc, or you can instant cancel into your jump MS, which is plus 1 block. So you have all of those options, and also if you happen to have some white life, you can also go for some cheeky overhead stuff, instant overhead stuff if that's your style. Which it is clearly not mine, because I have no idea how to execute this. As you can see, you can go for an overhead a little earlier to catch them off guard. And you can also make it kind of look like it's going to be an overhead, but instead go for a low. And yeah, I think those are his main options that are kind of new things he can use to go for some pretty cool offense pressury style. And also, I don't want to, or I do want to mention that most of these aren't actually exclusive to his heavy strings. So even off of like light buttons, if the opponent blocks you, you can still go for these things like going for this plus 1 block stuff and continuing your offense this way. Or, you know, obviously at any point, if your opponent thinks they can punish you or press buttons, you can always just go straight into your armor, which applies to any of his buttons. The only thing that's exclusive to his heavy strings is being able to jump cancel. And all of these combined are really, really cool, really, really powerful. Unfortunately, it is really, really strong and really cool to see compared to his old self where he just had nothing. But in a game like this, when you're actually comparing him to the rest of the cast, this kind of mix and offense isn't really that juicy. People have like 8-way mix-ups off of any hit at any time most of the time. And Vanguard now just has some slightly better ways of going for offense in more situations. So I'm in no way saying that this is going to make him top tier or broken or anything. And unfortunately, even though these changes are really good, it doesn't really mean much when the rest of your cast are absolute psycho war criminals that can just break your guard or just mix you up off of anything. But nonetheless, make sure you are incorporating these into your game plan. Oh wow, that was a really long combo. Make sure you're incorporating these and keeping the opponent on their toes, because lots of people don't respect Vanguard's offense. They either like mash at any point they can, or just sit there all day. It's always the polar opposite, and they just like sit there, block your entire thing, because they don't think it's any threat. Now, you can actually loop your offense well enough that I think it can become a threat a lot faster than people think. And combining in like little gimmicky stuff like jump cancels to catch them, or even go for mix, going for armor, going for plus unblock things, it just gives Vanguard a little bit more to do when he's actually on offense, rather than just continually doing his heavy strings and hoping that the opponent presses a button, which was basically his game plan before. So, although they're not crazy, I do think these are really good changes. Will that hit? Oh, it did. Let's watch the cinematic. Anyways, thank you for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye. Okay, hello everyone, this is Mr. Upperrun here again, and in this yet another mini guide for Vanguard, we're going to talk about how his neutral has changed with the recent buffs that he acquired. Because he actually has quite a number of new options, or new ways that he can actually lock the opponent down and do some actual good stuff from neutral, which is what he's meant to be good at. And now he has luckily had some buffs to his offense and stuff, but going for his neutral, or using his neutral tools, are now even better than they were before. So let's talk about what's better. Most of his pokes, they said they reduced the recovery, particularly like his B normals. Okay, you can stop rolling, sorry. Particularly his B normals, they said that they reduced the recovery, and although you can kind of see it on the standing B, he recovers really quickly after he brings the sword in. He does leave just the sword on the screen far after it's active, so it still has a decent amount of recovery, and crouching B still has quite a large amount. If the opponent jumps or does anything, this is just hella minus, so you do not want to whiff this. You want to use it when you are sure you're in range, or you are adept enough to know when it is range. So unfortunately, these normals are still quite committal options in the neutral. You can use this as like a really good anti-air, or a really good way of covering the entire screen in front of you within like a few character distances. And this one is really good at poking people out from trying to press their own buttons from a distance. And they're still really good, but you just still have to be careful. They're not like super free buttons to use still. So the new things that he did get, one of the most obvious and really cool ones, which has probably been mentioned in every single one of my Vanguard mini guides because it's useful for so many things, but it is his access to armor at any point. So he could go through his brandish, 5 ms into 4 ms really quickly, and then he gets this, which is a really long reaching, like, I think, where can it reach? From like around here? Yeah, like 3/4 of the screen reaching special move that is a massive swipe. So it already covers like more of the screen than his, like even his 6S, which is meant to be his super long button. So it covers huge range. Oh, actually that's a bit far. Maybe it is similar to his S. Oh no, it is a bit longer. So it's a really big, but the main thing is that it's armored. So if the opponent is doing anything, he will be able to armor through it. And the cool thing is if he does armor through it, there's a good chance that he has counter hit whatever they've done. Let me record him going for a projectile. If he's armored through, he's probably caught something that they're doing, and he'll get a nice counter hit. Get a nice combo as such. And do a combo that actually works instead of that one. So obviously, this has huge implications for his neutral game plan. Unfortunately, the armor doesn't start up instantly. He has to do like the first little flash. So it seems like it's probably like maybe like 10 frames or even longer before he actually gains the armor. So you do have to use it like preemptively. You can't really like, oh, the opponent's pressed something, let me just quickly go for my, it's not like a full screen DP or anything that he can just throw out and cover everything. So he has to know that the opponent is doing something, or they have to do something kind of slow. So maybe it's Launcher throwing out her massive cannon or something, or throwing out one of her projectiles because they're pretty slow. Or if the opponent's just doing anything in neutral that you think you can catch them with, you can just always throw out this from almost any distance other than like full screen, and you'll be able to either just hit them on block, or counter hit them for some lovely big damage. And it doesn't even really cost that much. It costs nearly the exact same as 6 ms. It's only 50 meter, which is the same as like Crusader's Wall and stuff, which is maybe slightly comparable in strength right now. like the wall versus this full screen armor. So a really, really good option, and you have to make sure that you remember that you actually have it. I often forget that I have access to this amazing armor tool. I'm like, oh my god, I just can't reach with my buttons right now. I'm trying to get in, and then I'm like, oh, I can just go through what they do. Cool. So obviously that is a massive change. And a very similar change, using the same, like the same buffs, is that he can now cancel straight into his Inferno charge, which is in projectile immune, but it used to be completely useful before because you just, well, you have to do it after a special move and the opponent isn't throwing projectiles then. But now it's actually really useful because you can just flail your way straight through any amount of projectiles that the opponent is throwing at you. They could be grenades, flamethrowers, atom bombs, all over the screen. As long as this move is active while they're hitting you, you're just going to blow straight through them. And thanks to its changes to hit stun, you can actually just get a full combo off of it, even with your B buttons now. So it is a really awesome way of getting through your opponent's projectiles, and particularly for characters like Launcher and Ranger, it's really good just to throw out. It's less expensive and a bit less committal than going for this, because it's just a bit faster and it brings you in on the opponent, which is probably what you want against characters with projectiles. You close the distance and you go through their projectiles, and you are either plus on block or start a combo if it actually hits them. So that is really, really good as well. But do keep in mind, just like the armor, it doesn't start up instantly. He has to do the first flash before he goes into it. So it's not instantly projectile immune, but it is pretty fast. So both of these are really good ways of him like contesting when he's kind of out of his preferred range, when he's like this far away and like trying to get in from projectiles. Now he actually has options to YOLO in, which most of the cast has, and now thankfully Vanguard has too. Now the next thing is something that I only recently found to be really, really good. And he could totally do it before, but now I feel it's even better because of like the increased hitboxes and how it just works against more things. Now his 4 MS, in my opinion, is basically just a move that is like, not a wild card, but just a really safe cover-all card. Like if you don't really know what's going on the screen or what your opponent is going to go for, you can't really read them, they're too like unpredictable, you can just kind of go for 4 MS wherever you are, and it'll do something. So even if you're really far away, this is actually one of his I think it is his longest reaching like special. It reaches ridiculously far with the follow-up. And even though, yeah, the follow-up takes a while, at least you know if you whiff it, this follow-up is going to cover the entire damn screen, so it's either going to hit them for a little bit of damage, or they're just going to have to like block this and respect it. But it's useful for a bunch of situations. So obviously now, because it has reduced upper body invulnerability, upper body hitbox, sorry, it basically works like a 6-piece. So if the opponent does jump, you just outright beat them out. Like there is no way that a jump in is going to hit him unless he just doesn't do it on time. And yeah, super, super easy to beat jump ins, but it also beats people who are going for rolls, which it did before, but now because it is just kind of slightly better in every way, and I think they also made it cheaper. You can just throw it out without thinking too much about it. So if I think this is a reversal roll. Tell me I'm right. No, I am not right. That's a roll. So ever you're in neutral, because rolls are so good now, even if you're going for Oki, rolls are so good now that you kind of want to have thought about how you're going to beat rolls, because they are ridiculously good. So anytime in neutral or anytime on wake up, you can just go for 4 MS, and because it's active for so long, you're able to just easily punish rolls even without thinking about it. And if you do have a bit of white life, then you can actually get a combo mid-screen, whereas usually you wouldn't. Unfortunately, that's the one thing I really don't like about this special move, is that you can't really combo off of it unless you're in the corner, if you don't have a conversion. But being able to cover so many options just makes it a really good, just, I don't know what's going on. I just want to cover the entire screen, and it doesn't cost that much meter for it. So yeah, in neutral, just throw this out. If the opponent rolls, you'll punish them. If they jump, you'll punish them. If they do anything after the first like spinny spin stuff, if they press any buttons there, you'll get to hit them and then chase them down to the corner for a bit because it launches them so far. And if any of this is applying in the corner, well then off of any of these hits you get a combo. If they jump, you get a combo. If they roll, you get a combo. Even if they're behind you, it launches them back in front of you. So you're always going to get a combo. And it just is even better at what it does in the corner because you can just always get things off of it. So that's a surprising change that I didn't actually expect from this patch, because it doesn't seem like they changed it, or it didn't seem like it would be useful in my opinion, because it's just not that great. And yeah, now it's just a I don't really know what's going on. Let me just cover every option in like a slightly weak way, but a way that'll actually consistently work off of basically anything. I guess a small note. If you really want to, you can go for this in neutral now, which is practically full screen. I think it's 1 character distance within full screen. Yeah, so like if I take a few steps in, I can do it, but I don't think that's worth it. It's really expensive, and yeah, you get a hard knockdown, but it's not that much damage. It's not worth it, in my opinion, in my humble opinion. And yeah, I don't think any of the other changes apply specifically to his neutral, but all of them combined give him either just a stronger neutral or more options to go for a neutral, which hence leads to stronger neutral. So he can press these buttons with slightly less risk now, which is good. And he can also go for a lot more YOLO options, where he goes for like destroying anything or destroying projectiles and closing the distance. Or he can destroy any kind of movement options, whether it's roll or a jump. And yeah, those are the 3 I was talking about. Yeah, I think that's all. And combined with the other things we've talked about in the other mini guides, having really good neutral is good. And now whenever he actually gets a hit, he gets a lot more reward off of his hits because he gets better Oki off of things. He gets better combo routes. So getting buffed to neutral just leads to all of those things. And yeah, make sure you actually use these things when you're playing with Vanguard, and you don't just default to doing the same like footsies, trying to reach in for your Bs, or trying to snipe a really long reaching like S thing and getting your big jump combos that way. These are honestly your most viable ways of getting in on the opponent now, so make sure you're using and abusing them, or else you're just wasting a ton of potential that we were given in this patch. So yeah, be YOLO, do special moves, because now his combos are really loopable and don't cost that much meter. So you can use a lot of special moves in neutral and just be absolutely psychos with your armor, projectile invulnerability, and crazy active frames. So make sure you do that. Anyways, hope this guide was useful. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!